Well, for more on North Korea's capabilities, I'm joined now by Bruce Klingner of the Heritage Foundation. He's a former CIA Deputy Division Chief for Korea. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. It went higher, it went further. How worried should we be?
We should be very worried. Although it only traveled perhaps 1,000 kilometers, it went to the highest trajectory ever, so as not to fly over Japan. But now the range estimate is if the previous ICBM tests were perhaps 10,000 or 11,000 kilometers, this could have gone the equivalent of 13,000 kilometers. That's the entire continental United States. This is the third successful ICBM flight out of 3, so they are moving closer and closer to deployment status.
And any idea of what the timeline is now? Because there are varying estimates.
There are varying estimates, and in a way we're really just nitpicking here. Whether they have the capability today, tomorrow, next month, or next year, they're really in the end game of having that capability of being able to hit the entire continental United States with a nuclear weapon, perhaps an H-bomb.
What do you make of the timing of this test, though?
Well, many people were focusing on that they hadn't tested for 75 days. Some were attributing it to President Trump's strong rhetoric. Others saw it as a North Korean signal of wanting to reach out on engagement. I think both were incorrect. It really was more a cyclical factor in that during the fourth quarter of the year, they've always tested fewer missiles than the other 3 quarters of the year. So we knew it was going to happen. Many of us had thought they would fly over Japan to a longer range out into the Pacific to clearly demonstrate the distance as well as a reentry vehicle capability. Again, they're still holding back from flying over Japan with an ICBM, but I think it's a matter of time.
They also tested it at night, though.
Right. Some have speculated that that was to prevent the U.S. being able to attack it, given the rhetoric by the Trump administration of perhaps a preventive attack. Others may see it as that, along with the fact that they've launched from 20 different locations with mobile launchers throughout the country, perhaps it's any place, any time of the day they can launch, so that it shows that they are practicing really for wartime conditions or demonstrating that they can do it any time.
President Trump says that none of this is going to change the U.S. approach to North Korea. Should it?
Well, I think we're hoping that we have time for sanctions to increase the economic and diplomatic pressure on North Korea. I think what's striking so far in the comments by Secretary of State Tillerson as well as the President was, first of all, we didn't have an attack, a preventive attack on the launcher, and also the rhetoric about that this will lead to military action is missing. We were seeing that more in the beginning of the year, but Secretary Tillerson's comments are more sort of along the lines of traditional U.S. policy rather than the threats of military action we were seeing.
But it's not just a U.S. problem, is it? I mean, how worried are North Korea's neighbours at this point, and how confident are they that the U.S., in Donald Trump's words, can take care of this?
The neighbours are very nervous. While we worry in the United States about their increasing ability to hit the U.S. with a nuclear weapon, they've already had that capability against South Korea and Japan for years. They have nuclear weapons that can hit all of South Korea, all of Japan, as well as biological and chemical weapons and a million-man army that can invade the South. So they have always been concerned. There's growing concern by our allies whether the U.S. will come to their defense, particularly as our own homeland comes under threat. The phrase is, would we really trade Los Angeles for Seoul or Tokyo? And we try to point out that we have treaty obligations, we have presidential statements through successive administrations, and we deployed our most precious resource, our sons and daughters in uniform, to both those countries.
Bruce Klingner, thank you very much for joining me.